Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on Wayne's World, part one of On the Ice here on ASTV. Wayne Kozier with us. Looks like he's in the comfort of his fine home today. We don't recognize those jerseys. Wayne, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Watched a little hockey, went to Moose Jaw, caught a game there. It's a beautiful arena there, and then caught a couple games on TV. So great weekend. Yours?
Are you noticing more fans in the stands? Are you noticing more interest in the hype, getting close to playoff season?
Yeah, actually, in Moose Jaw there, the game, I was actually impressed. I thought it was a bigger crowd than normal. And so, yeah, I think, people are starting to feel more safe. I think we're getting closer to the playoffs where games mean more. And, I think we're going to see the crowds ramp up here week by week. So all positive.
All positive. We're in the middle of February, about a month or so to go before playoffs start, maybe a little bit longer, but we're seeing three, especially in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, the MJ and the SJ, starting to heat up, still play. And we're starting to see, a bit of that oil, if you say, raising above the water, little cherry on the top, so to speak. Let's start with your league, the SJHL. Let's go there first. And speaking with a good friend of ours, Mike Stackhouse, last week with regards to some of the teams that he picked. And I agree, there's three really good contenders in the SJ. One of those being a close friend of ours, close friend of the show. He scouts with them, the Humboldt Broncos, returning to glory a little bit after a couple of years of, not unease, but just getting the ship back on track. Really like their game, well balanced, great goaltending. A bit more of a mature team, but they're showing some great signs there.
Yeah, absolutely. Humboldt definitely is going to be one of the contenders. And, junior hockey goes through its cycles. And I guess, Humboldt's just kind of coming through that cycle right now where, Scott Barney, the GM and head coach there, has kind of built a young team. And now they're just starting to mature. And, I think they're still going to have a great year again next year. But certainly I would see Humboldt as a contender. And, of course, down south, Estevan Bruins being the host of the Canadian Championships. They've gone out and purposely built a powerful team. And quite surprising, I thought they'd be actually doing better, but I think it's one of those things where they're kind of saving it a bit for the playoffs and the championship run. But again, two teams there for sure that I see that are serious contenders, and a couple that I'm going to throw in. I welcome any more comments from you, but I'm going to throw Flin Flon and Melfort into that equation. But again, I would still see, in theory, Humboldt and Estevan playing for the final. And of course, with Estevan hosting, both teams would make it in. So two teams will be in from Saskatchewan. So what are you thinking?
I'm thinking the same thing, just because I looked at the rosters over the last couple of weeks here, and Flin Flon has a very balanced scoring. And I say that because a lot of their players, I think they had like 9 players with 30 points or more, which is tremendous, because if you look, you can't really focus on scoring line 1, scoring line 2, and a couple of D. Everybody's there, and they're going to hit you from all sides. They've been riding their lead goaltender. I forget his name. It doesn't come on top of my head right now, but he's played 31 games with a 33 or 34. So when you have a hot goaltender like that, it's kind of like a catch-22 where you don't want to jinx him. You don't want to see him go on the DL, but you want to see him finish strong. And like you said, Estevan quietly has built a really strong team. They haven't lost yet in 22, which is tremendous. Like, they're ramping up. They're crescendoing to the playoffs. And Humboldt has had a couple of games where they haven't brought their best game to the ice, but nonetheless, they're still a very strong team. And I think Jason Tatarnic quietly has put together a really great squad wearing the B on the front of the jersey. And I think both them and the Broncos are going to be fun to watch in the finals. Quickly look at the MJ. I mean, talk about a team that's taken a bit of time to raise their game up, is the Steinbach Pistons. I really think Steinbach is a powerhouse. They're really, a lot coined the term, they're flying on all cylinders, really, because they're really pumping and grinding. Winnipeg, the Blues, really took a quick stride at the beginning, but they've kind of tapered off a bit. Don't count out the Wolverines. I mean, that's a team that's quietly really done great jobs on the rules side of things in Manitoba. I could see, Way Steinbach, maybe even Dauphin if they start finding their stride again. Those 3 teams could be my 3 teams to watch. Yours?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we align quite a bit, and I have to. I'd be remiss if I overlooked your pun there. Firing on all pistons there about Steinbach. So good line. I'll have to remember that one. So yeah, I mean, Steinbach obviously always has a strong program. They're going to be good. But again, surprisingly, they've been kind of losing some surprising games that you wouldn't expect them to. And, Winnipeg Blues, they've loaded up. I think they were running with the 820s they've got and playing the maximum amount they can every night. And so they're definitely going to make a run for it. Got some high-end talent there. And, I like Dauphin and Wayway too. So those would be my top four. But, I'm not going to count out Winkler, Selkirk, and Portage. They all kind of, are there. And I see the MJ, there's going to be some upsets in the early going just because it is all too close. So one of those top guys is going to get taken out unexpectedly. And which one it is, I'm not sure. But I guess if I was to be a gambler, I'd say that, Winnipeg Blues have been a little bit inconsistent based on, the power they have. And so I would put them as the one team that could get upset by one of those underdogs.
Yeah, I think a lot of, you can't really expect. I mean, what is there to expect? I mean, when you think about all these teams that have finally finished a full regular season, having no season last year, a lot is still up in the air. So I'm happy to see hockey back. I'm happy to see the fans back, and I'm happy to see players finally getting a chance to play the sport they love. Let's go one level up, Mr. Wayne. Let's talk about the East Division. There are some pretenders. There are two potential contenders in the East Division. I mean, the Winnipeg Ice have been there since day one. Tremendous team, unbelievably built. You'd think a little bit of a drop losing Peyton Krebs, but no. Their young stars have really picked it up, and they've got a phenomenal diamond in the rough in Zach Benson. I mean, talk about a guy that's just had a tremendous year. Is anybody going to defeat them coming out of the East?
It's going to be an interesting battle, but who I have it coming down to would obviously be Edmonton and Winnipeg. If I had to choose between the two, I'm going to go with Edmonton. I just think they're built a little bit bigger, a little bit more solid back end, a little bit better goaltending, in my opinion. I mean, some people might disagree with that, but goaltending, is key in the playoffs. 7-game series being a little bit more rugged team, I think is going to be important. And I just can't see anybody honestly beating Edmonton in a 7-game series. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Edmonton could win the whole Memorial Cup. But that said, I'm not counting out the Red Deer Rebels have a heck of a team. And I think they're going to surprise somebody. There could be an upset come out of the Rebels. A little bit longer shot teams. I mean, Saskatoon and Moose Jaw. But again, their issue in both cases is they don't have good enough goaltending, in my opinion, to win in the playoffs. Great teams up front. Saskatoon maybe a little bit lacking in size. Moose Jaw's okay there, but it all comes down to goaltending and being able to rough it out in a 7-game series in the playoffs. And I just don't think they have it.
It is a different animal. I will totally agree with you, especially when you consider they played a 24-game bubble last spring, playing a full season this year. You are seeing the ruggedness. You are seeing the excitement of preliminary playoff hockey now. Teams are built differently. Like you said, when you have to play a team potentially 7 times and win 4 of them, it's a different style of game. And just dragging it out, old-time hockey, it never changes. I mean, Edmonton is built a little more rugged than Winnipeg. Winnipeg is very flashy. You won't see them drop the mitts very much. And if you look at their back end, I think it's 3 first-round draft picks on the blue line compared to 1. So these guys are, there's a lot more maturity on that back end too. So I think it's guys that have been there several times and expect to be there again. So Edmonton, Winnipeg. I mean, Everett's still in that top 10 look at it. They could possibly do something out of the West. But, I mean, it all depends on who's healthy, right? Everyone always says, you got to be your healthiest and you got to ride your hot hands. So that philosophy never changes.
Yeah, it's a good time of year.
It's almost the most wonderful time of the year. Not so much though. Let's go talk about the West Coast. Last week we talked about the junior hockey program and the CJHL. One omission to that obviously is the BCHL. And there's been under the radar. There's been some unfortunate news with one of the teams in the Nanaimo Clippers, dating back to like the beginning of the fall in October, where their head coach GM, got the name right, Darren Naylor, and their associate coach Colin Burkus were relieved of their duties, and then they were reinstated by themselves. And all this going back and forth, this massive cloud held over the players. The Clippers organization is still running very well. from a player standpoint. I mean, they're putting the wins in the column, they're putting the losses less in the column. Their current record 24, 13, 1 and 1. Wayne, give us some insight on what's happening in Nanaimo.
Yeah, I honestly don't know any inside information. It's more what's in the press and stuff. And Rick Westwood from TSN has done a fantastic job as always on kind of uncovering and exposing some of these issues. But some fairly serious allegations coming out of there, and there, obviously some disconnect between the BCHL and the Nanaimo Clippers. And, as you kind of mentioned, and I think it was a little bit more recent that the BCHL put those two coaches on administrative leave. And behind the league's back appears the owner, and the Clippers went and got a lawyer and got a court injunction to override that ruling. And so the league had to reinstate those coaches. So there's still a little bit of a battle going on. And it's never a good sign when you have one of your clubs battling the league in the courts. And so it'll be interesting to see, what comes of that, I guess. And, when all the facts come to light, what really is going on and stuff in Nanaimo. It obviously has to be pretty serious, or it wouldn't be kind of reaching these, reaching the courts and reaching suspensions and stuff. But, based on my research, I looked in it a little bit more. Colin Burkus, the coach, has a pretty extensive history of suspensions in the Ontario Junior Hockey League. I think 3 or 4 times he was suspended, and including a full season, he got suspended for directing a player to purposely injure another player and stuff. So some pretty serious stuff there. And, as far as Darren Naylor, I mean, going through some press releases and stuff, there's, the owner himself quoted as talking about he's an old school hockey coach. And, some people like to think that's a badge of honor. I don't see that today. That's not a good thing to think of yourself as an old school coach. And it just doesn't work today. And frankly, in many cases, it may not even be safe or healthy for the players that play for those people.
You mentioned that philosophy, old time. We talk old time hockey, but old school coaching to today's player. Why doesn't it work? Is it just the fact that we're seeing the pendulum shifting a little bit with the player? Are we seeing more of that balance of hockey with lifestyle? Why has that been such a detriment to coaches nowadays that are so enthralled in their old school ways?
Frankly, because it just doesn't work anymore. And why that is, in my opinion, is that the youth are raised different today than us older guys were back in our day. And back in our day, I mean, you call it old school. It still was abuse back then. I mean, it just was accepted. It was abuse. I mean, let's don't beat around the bush. And but it worked because that's how we were raised. Our parents kind of, no problem with slapping us, hitting us, whatever. That's just the way it was. And that's fine. That's the rules back then. That was okay to do that. But I think we can all look back and say that probably wasn't correct. And, the kids of today probably have the benefit of getting raised in a more caring, nurturing environment that is more healthy mentally and physically. And, that kind of coaching is just not acceptable, in my opinion, in today's world. And, it's going to take some time to kind of weed that out, because there's still people at the head of hockey leagues and owners of teams that kind of think, that's the way things should be done. But frankly, it's going to get to a point where it's completely offside, bordering on illegal, and could end up in the courts for people and stuff. And so, it just has to change. Kids don't respond to that. There's great coaching methods and how to instruct kids, ask the right questions versus screaming, demeaning, belittling. That's not acceptable.
Now, this obviously would happen not just because the BCHL is no longer part of the CJHL, but this would have happened in any league. It's happened before. We've seen it before. When will Hockey Canada have to intervene and restructure or rethink some of the hiring processes? And would there ever be like an umbrella sort of looking at, resume, looking at indictments prior to, or issues prior to correct this situation? Because we're trying to lead the next generation into not just hockey, but into becoming better athletes and better adults.
When I think about it, the best idea that I can come is when you look at the problems that are existing in the U.S. government today, and you always hear the common term, we need to have separation of powers, where they have the Congress, the Senate, the administrative or executive government. And, I think you need the same in hockey. There has to be oversight from independent parties. The issue that I see is it's kind of all too often the old boys club. And that can happen at the league level. It can happen at the team levels, at the ownership levels, all the way down. And, ultimately you can have people protecting their own. If people are not abiding by rules and regulations, they have to be held accountable. And it has to be an independent party that is not, in any way involved in the hiring or firing of that person that makes the decisions and stuff. And, again, this is not a BCHL issue. It's rampant across the entire country at all leagues, at all local hockey associations. You run into this type thing where, people protect their own. But end of the day, separation of power would be one thing that I think could help solve this.
Let's go south of the border real quick. I got to fill in a couple minutes here with you, Wayne. I hope you can stick around with me. Please do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Des Moines Buccaneers, Chicago Steel, USHL. What has been some of the storylines you've seen so far throughout this year? Has it been just status quo? Things are moving just along just the way they're supposed to be? I mean, or have you seen some changes now that we are seeing junior hockey back moving in Canada? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think much has changed down there. I mean, they went all last year pretty much as normal, and obviously they're doing the same this year. Again, the Chicago Steel is once again a powerhouse. I mean, it's just an unbelievable organization, and I'm always thankful for the 4 years that I spent there and stuff, and the amount of things I learned from that organization and the ownership and folks like Daryl Belfry that work with them and stuff, and current GM there, Mike Garman, and previous, just an incredible organization. So that's about the only news. Is the same old news. Chicago Steel is dominating.
What about the fact that the Olympics obviously are going on? Some people are watching, some people aren't. Seeing your bedtime, Wayne.
It's way past my bedtime. I have a better chance of seeing them when I wake up than when I go to bed type thing. But, it's been good. I like seeing those college age kids and college players playing versus the pros. And I know we got a little bit of a hybrid this year, but, some of those kids that you mentioned, I mean, I got the good opportunity to meet and, even work behind the bench in scrimmages and camp and stuff with those exact kids that are now playing in the Olympics. So kind of a real thrill for me to watch those guys on that big world stage now.
Isn't it great to see like a player like that fill in its skates finally and say, you know what, they're happy to be where they are and wear their nation on front of their jersey and really have a chance to do it, something they probably would never have had a chance to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The ultimate thrill, I think, to be able to represent your country, at any level. And, that's why I'm a big fan. I'd love the Olympics to go back to completely amateur and, let those guys have a chance to wear the crest versus the professionals.
Wayne Koji, I want to thank you for helping me out for the last couple minutes. Do appreciate the rest of the week. Have a great rest of the week, and I'm sure you'll watch some more games as always.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Good talking to you, Theo. See you next week, okay?
Absolutely. Wayne's World brought to you by Toby Hockey, Case Financial Group, Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, and Dokes Brookfields. On my next section of the show, Rick McConnell from Pilot Mountain will be joining me, the U17 coach. 2 more weekends left. One busy weekend just passed in Caronport. We'll be talking with him. Stay with us here on the ice.
Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
Rick McConnell's joining me now in the comfort of Pilot Mountain, Manitoba. Thanks for taking some time, Rick. I know you're busy.
No problem. Yeah, I'm busy. All right.
Did you catch up on your sleep after this long weekend? It wasn't really a long weekend day-wise. It was a long weekend hockey-wise.
Yeah, 4 games in a weekend is more than we're normally used to. We're usually just playing 3, so it was a bit of a grind. And yeah, it was nice to get home, but I'm home for a couple of days. I'm leaving again Thursday morning, so That's my life.
Cash in on those air miles, Rick, right? Got to get
Yeah.
those air miles. Got to make sure they don't expire either.
Yeah.
4 games, crazy weekend in Caronport, Saskatchewan. Not obviously the win-loss column, not the way we wanted to see it. But tell me about how the weekend went.
Well, it started off. We played IHA our first game, and we actually played a pretty decent hockey game. A couple penalties cost us towards the end, and that's why we lost in overtime. But I thought we played well enough to win that game. Then our next game was against Notre Dame, and they're a powerhouse. They're just a solid hockey team, and we have to be on top of our game to compete with them. And we weren't sharp. Other than my goaltending was outstanding against them, but they're just a downright 4-line good hockey team. They come at you hard and took it to us. And then the next game we played Edge, who we've had some success against, and we had really solid goaltending there again as well. But it was 5-3, but they're 5-2, and it could have been a lot worse if we hadn't had good goaltending. But again, another very good hockey team. And then again on Sunday, our last game, we regrouped and played probably one of our better hockey games this year against IHA. We played the way I want us to, a good forecheck, getting to the net, aggressive, just hungry, and the kids played a good sound hockey game at the end of the weekend and get a big 3 points against them. So it ended on a positive, and we're gonna hopefully that'll carry over to this coming weekend.
Absolutely. You lead me right into it, Rick. I really appreciate that. Off to Alberta, playing 3 teams you're fairly familiar with. I mean, you have the IHA in the middle. You have Okanagan first in the rink in your final game. 3 games next weekend. What does this team have to do to continue on that success, that good, that playing of the last game into this upcoming weekend? What do they have to continue to do?
Well, we got to play relentless hockey. We got to be on loose pucks. We got to compete and play with energy. We get into where we're playing just out there going through the motions is the way I call it, and we're not hungry. That last game we were hungry. We're on pucks, finishing checks, going to the net hard. I sound like Lowry with the Jets, but it's true. You got to get to the net and get to the dirty areas to score goals because we're struggling to put the puck in the net. So that's where you go, right? You got to get there. And I thought we did that well. So we must carry that over. But I'm big on work ethic right now. We have to work. We have to work shift in, shift out, and stay disciplined, stay out of the penalty box. But I was very encouraged the way we finished. We've had a couple good practices here. We're going to go again tomorrow. And I think going into the weekend, we're going in on a bright spot with some positive energy, and I'm looking forward to it because the teams that we're all playing are games that we're quite capable of winning if we play Pilot Mountain Buffalo hockey.
Absolutely. IHA was that one team you guys were able to take on last weekend and have to get the W. Everybody's healthy on the team. Any issues health-wise we have to worry about with the squad, the whole squad going to Alberta?
Well, that's one of my issues so far this year. We've had so many guys in and out with COVID or injuries, and I have lost one of my top players. Jack Smith has broke a collarbone, and he's out for 6 weeks. So that's a hole for us up front. But other than that, I think we're going to be for the first time in a long time have most of our lineup healthy and ready to go. So that's going to be a good thing to be able to have 4 lines, and I'm running 5D right now. So yeah, I think we should be in good shape.
Flying or driving to Alberta?
Oh, we drive.
How's Lyle doing? Is he getting some good stories out of you guys? Is he driving you this weekend again?
Who?
Who's your driver this weekend for you?
I'm not sure who's taking us this weekend. Stoney usually has been the last little while. He's got the girls. They're going to BC this weekend, so I'm not really sure who's taking us yet.
At least you don't have to take one bus, drop you guys off at Calgary, and then continue on to BC. Thankfully, we don't have to do that.
Yeah. No, we're getting used to the bus, and it's good team bonding.
The last couple of weeks, I've talked to some of the other coaches, and they had exams, the schedule, the school was a little bit on their brains a little bit. Now that exams are done, is it more of a focus on these next 3 or 4 weekends? You've got this weekend Alberta, next week back home. First week of March, you've got your final weekend before heading out to BC. Is the focus now kind of saying, okay, guys, you still got to focus on school, don't get me wrong, but let's really ramp this up?
Oh, absolutely. that's kind of how we approached last weekend. Starting last weekend, is we're focusing to so-called peak towards playoff time. So yeah, the school part we obviously is still important, but the mindset now is to get into that playoff mode. And that's kind of actually funny you say that, because our last game felt like a playoff game, the energy from both teams and stuff. So we've been gearing that, trying to get that into their heads now that every game is like a playoff game. And I will be coaching like that. And I'm hoping that the kids will play like that to lead us into Penticton, because obviously where we're standing, we got a long road ahead of us, but anything can happen. And I'm a believer, hard work can beat talent. So if these kids want to come and buy in and work hard, anything can happen.
There's no interim tag on you, Rick. I'm not going to put you in the same category as Lowry. I can't do that. How do you excite these kids so that they're ready to go game in and game out?
Oh, constantly talking, using my experiences as a coach. I use my two boys, talking to them as experience. Ernie's good too. It's and having won there a couple of years ago, I often use that. Kids from that team, I bring up names, and this is a group that I really have to keep on motivating. Unfortunately, I don't think I should have to do that on a regular basis, but it's a group that I seem to have to spend a lot of time chatting and getting things going. And but it's coming. I got to say, like I said, we was finally there last weekend a little bit, so I'm hoping it'll carry over, and these kids are actually believing that it's time. We got to put our best foot forward here now.
Got to talk to you a little bit off the topic of hockey, but also the big announcement that was made a short time ago for the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, the fourth team, the U18 program. Give me your thoughts on how important that is for the program, what it means for your team moving some of those players. How does that work? Give me some thoughts on what you think about it.
Yeah, it's exciting news for the academy. It's going to put a lot of work, making a lot of work for us coaches and stuff, recruiting, because obviously we need another 20 players. So that's 40 at the U17, U18. So we've got our work cut out from us there. And obviously we've got to do our work, because you look at the standings where we are right now, we've got some work ahead of us. But it's good for the program. You got your U15s, and we can hopefully it's a stepping stone. Kids can move from one age to the next, and they'll follow through with our program, see what we're all about, know our expectations, know what the next coaches are expecting, and stuff like that. So I think it's important. As for my team, it's hard. It's new this year. Next year, I'm not sure how the teams shake out. I know I'll get most of the 16-year-olds, and I know when you got U18, obviously that's your big team. So we'll see how that all shakes down. I think right now our biggest issue is to go out and find 40 prep level hockey players that can play on both teams. That's our goal, to improve my club as well as make the U18 team a contender. So, but it's really exciting. This academy thing is a big deal. But again, we're working hard now. Our recruiting's just beginning, so work's cut out for us.
It's never a dull moment in Pilot Mountain. Small town, big dreams, massive dorm being built, blackjacks during in full effect, state-of-the-art facilities, really simple life. I mean, in a day and age where you don't see simplicity, having a simple life might be a benefit to some of these young kids. And you're absolutely right, finding 40 good hockey prep level kids, it's different than junior hockey. I mean, you get the junior bus rides, you get the odd flight, you definitely get the academics, the athletics, but you don't want to have an ebb and flow system when it comes to each team. You want to consistently have strength and commitment from the players and the coaches. It's hard to build in a short time, Rick.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why if we can get a system where the kids are enjoying it and seeing the benefits, and we can keep them moving along in the system, I think that's going to be a positive. And, I say we're looking for the prep level players. I'm looking for guys that want to play, want to commit, are willing to work hard. I'm a believer I can make players out of some of these guys if they come and work hard. I strive to put them to the next level. So, but you're right. It's a challenge that small town Pilot Mountain, Manitoba is looking forward for the challenge. With these nice new dorms they're building here, they're huge. It's going to be I think it's going to be an attraction maybe, because it's going to be quite a facility for the kids to live in as well.
Absolutely. No, I'm looking forward to checking him out myself in the near future. Rick, want to thank you for your time. I know you got to pack. I know you got to get some sleep, and I got a busy weekend ahead of you. Really appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you, Theo.
And that was Rick McConnell with the U17 program at the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. I'd like to thank him as well as Wayne Kozier for joining us tonight. I'd like to thank our sponsors, yes again, Toby Hockey, Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, the Case Financial Group crew, and Doak Spoke Fields. Thank you for watching tonight. We'll be back this week with another guest on Thursday night. Take care of yourselves, bringing more goodness to the greatness here on ASTV on the ice. Check us out on all of our streams on YouTube, on Twitter, as well as Boxcast. We're now on Roku and Apple TV. Just search for ASTV Productions. You'll find us. Check it out. Leave a like. Give me a comment. Send me a message. Hey, love to hear what you think. Love to celebrate what's going on in the amateur sports hockey world here with our teams, with the other sports that are going to be starting to come, and as well, looking forward to seeing the new set of sports, the new set of athletes, and the new athletes that have a chance to play in front of fans here in the near future. Take care of yourselves. Like I said, stay warm. We're almost through it, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye for now.